This is my pick for 10 disturbing and or creepy minor characters in the novels. These are only minor characters, so no Ramsay, Tywin, or any characters that had their own point of view chapter. These guys aren't major players, and most are actually dead. All these characters to me are disturbing and creepy or a bit dark, and I had many more I wanted to put on this list. Number 1, Patchface. Patchface is unnerving at best. He was a clever, talented jester slave from Volantis, and there he was given green and red square tattoos that covered his face and head. He was brought to Storm's End in the hopes of entertaining a young Robert Baratheon and teaching Stannis how to laugh. However, within sight of Storm's End, the ship sank, killing everyone on board, except Patchface, who washed up 3 days later, naked with skin clammy cold. They thought he was dead until he coughed up water. However, the clever and talented boy had become broken from his ordeal, with his memories and half his wits gone. He often twitches, trembles, and is incoherent, but sometimes the things he says are very off, and he appears to have been given some type of prophecy abilities from his accident. Besides his dark riddles and rhymes that are oh so very creepy, here's what's most disturbing about Patchface. He frightens Melisandre. That creature is dangerous. Many a time I have glimpsed him in my flames. Sometimes there are skulls about him, and his lips are red with blood. A jester that frightens that woman? Yeah, there's something not right about him. Number 2, Septon Ut. The Septon was a thin, balding man, and he had a taste for little boys, which on its own is disturbing. However, he seemed to have some remorse over it, like he couldn't stop the terrible things he would do to them. After killing a boy, he would always weep and ask forgiveness. Sometimes he would even have people whip him in punishment, which may have been him actually feeling bad for what he did, or maybe also part of his sexual excitement. When standing accused of raping and killing little boys, he responded, "I am a weak reed. I prayed to the warrior for strength, but the gods made me weak. Have mercy on my weakness. The boys, the sweet boys, I never meant to hurt them." As far as we know, he always killed his child victims after he was done with them. Number 3, Rorg. Rorg is missing his nose, very hairy, and is a special kind of evil. In Flea Bottom, the really bad part of King's Landing, he owned a pot shop or bar. There he would stage dog fights, bear fights, rat fights, etc., and make money off of them. At some point in time, he found a big, ugly kid with no parents named Biter. He started putting Biter into the fights against feral dogs and bear cubs. Also, he threatened to rape Arya many times, even though she saved his life, and he attempts to gang rape Brienne with his other brave companions. During this, when Brienne talks of fighting back, he tells her, "You are the ugliest woman I have ever seen, but don't think I can't make you uglier. You want a nose like mine? Fight me, and you'll get one. And 2 eyes? That's too many. One scream out of you and I'll pop one out and make you eat it. And then I'll pull your fucking teeth out one by one." Rorg also seemed to get his jollies from kicking the stump where Jaime Lannister's right hand used to be. As well, he led a group in the complete destruction across the Riverlands, committing horrific crimes. Number 4, Biter. A large bald man that gives off a stench of bad cheese, Biter's tongue had been cut out. He wouldn't talk, but he would often hiss, displaying a mouthful of yellowed teeth filed into points. He must have had some crazy high pain tolerance, because even when this guy grabbed kettles with boiling hot water without protection, he'd hiss in pain when they burned his hand, but he would just keep carrying them. Also, when Brienne is fighting him, she keeps hitting him over and over, and he never seems to feel the pain, or just hisses and keeps going. However, that case could have been excused by adrenaline. Biter has done many terrifying and disturbing things, and here are a few. We read about him sitting on top of a dead man, holding the corpse's limp hand as he gnaws at the fingers and bones crack between his teeth. We hear about him chewing the breasts and nipples off a septa, and we can't forget the descriptions when he overpowers Brienne and begins to eat her face. His breath stank like cheese gone rotten. She saw his teeth, yellow and crooked, filed into points. When they closed on the soft meat of her cheek, she hardly felt it. Biter's mouth tore free, full of blood and flesh. He spat, grinned, and sank his pointed teeth into her flesh again. This time he chewed and swallowed. He is eating me. He ends up eating half her cheek. Alright, if you don't find a man that has his teeth filed into points and eats people disturbing, I do not know what will disturb you. Number 5, Chiswick. While we don't get a lot of descriptions of the horrific things he's done, his character never sat right with me. His jolly personality covers up a very sadistic side. He seems to lack a moral compass and tells awful stories as if they are hilarious, such as when the mountain had a 13-year-old tavern girl gang raped and then paid her father like she's a whore. There's something very, very wrong about someone that can laugh hysterically at someone being brutally raped and tell the story like it's a joke. As well, he sometimes would help in the torturing of innocent small folk. Number 6, Reek. Not Theon or Ramsay, but the Reek that was the personal servant of Ramsay before Theon. Reek smelled horrible, his stench ripe and overpowering. His smell would never go away, even when he bathed 3 times a day and wore flowers. He once drank perfume to cover up the smell, but almost died from it. Reek participates in Ramsay's hunts of women, and typically rapes the corpses, trying to finish before their bodies get cold. He also participated in the abduction, forced marriage, and murder of Lady Hornwood. Roose reflects that he doesn't know if it was Ramsay that tainted Reek, or if it was Reek that tainted Ramsay. Number 7, Tickler. A man that was in the service of Gregor Clegane. His name is misleading at best. Tickler tortures the peasants of the Riverlands on Sir Gregor's orders. It's claimed Tickler makes them howl so hard they piss themselves. Arya, just thinking of Tickler, could hear the shrieks again and smell the stench of blood and shit and burning. He always asked the same questions, but he changed the tickling every day. Even later, she can remember the way the villagers shrieked and screamed and whimpered whenever the Tickler started asking about gold. No one would survive the Tickler's questioning, man, woman, or child. The strongest made it past sunset. He would hang their bodies for the wolves to eat. Arya thinks he's almost too scary to hate. When he's not asking questions, he's just another soldier, quieter than most, with a face like 1,000 other men. Number 8, Shagwell. Shagwell was a psychotic fool and part of the Brave Companions. Half mad, he loved terrible jokes, raping, and killing. He may have even killed a man once for not laughing at one of his jokes. His humor was very dark, such as when he hacked the heads off 2 dead knights and pranced around a castle swinging them by the hair and making them talk. "What did you die of?" one head asked. "Hot weasel soup," replied the second. I will say Shagwell's mocking of Jaime trying to fight them off, badly, after he loses his hand and is very out of it, was between weird and maybe amusing. And I say maybe amusing with a lot of guilt. The fool is dancing and ducking out of the way, only to plant a wet kiss atop Jaime's head when he trips and stumbles to his knees. It's just a weird moment where I almost wanted to laugh, but then felt really horrible about it. Some lines of his that stood out as particularly disturbing: when Rorg is talking about making Brienne uglier if she resists their rape and talks about putting her teeth out one by one, Shagwell pleads, "Oh, do it, Rorg. Without teeth, she'll look just like my dear old mother, and I always wanted to fuck my dear old mother up the ass." During the who gets to rape Brienne first discussions, Shagwell also offers his own advice. Both go first and take her front and rear. He really has a preoccupation with raping people, such as when he sees Brienne again and he dances from foot to foot. "I'm going to fuck her up the arse and pump her full of motley seed until she whelps a little me." And a bit later tells her, "I think I'm going to fuck you up the nose, wench. Won't that be amusing?" And he is very unapologetic about it. When asking for Brienne and Pod to spare his life, he admits he has raped, murdered, and robbed, but he is amusing with all his japes, and he makes men laugh. They counter, and women weep. To which he responds, "Is that my fault?" Women have no sense of humor. Number 9, Qyburn. Qyburn is a mad scientist and necromancer that doesn't appear to be that crazy. Performing unethical experiments, he has a calmness and intelligence about him that is unnerving, and he is described as looking like a little girl's favorite grandfather. Qyburn studied at the Citadel until, in an effort to discover the secrets of death, he began experimenting and opening up bodies while the host was still alive. For his experiments on living humans, he was stripped of his position. Lucky for him, he found his interest of use with Cersei, who let him torture her prisoners and enemies. Some of their dialogue alone is just unnerving, like when Cersei asks Qyburn if he still needs women for his work. Who knows what he's doing to those girls? Or when he responds that Lady Stokeworth, after experimenting on her, is still alive, but not entirely comfortable. She is no longer capable of ruling Stokeworth, or even feeding herself. We never figure out exactly what he did to her. Lobotomized her? Cut off her hands? Drove her mad with torture? As well, sometimes there's almost an erotic nature to his torture, such as when he's asking the Blue Bard if Marjorie took his nipples in her mouth during love play, and he begins to play with the Blue Bard's nipples, saying, "Some men enjoy that. Their nipples are as sensitive as a woman's." Then he slices off the man's nipple. He continues to torture the man, mutilating him and removing one of his eyes. Lastly, if the theories on Sir Robert Strong are true, we can also add being able to bring the dead back to life on the list of Qyburn's abilities. And number 10, Gregor Clegane. For the most part, the mountain being on this list is a no-brainer. He's a horrible man that loves to rape, murder, and torture. Some believe his extreme headaches cause his violent temperament. He's also so feared that even dogs are afraid to enter his home. Some things attributed to his disturbing character: the raping of a 13-year-old girl and countless others, smashing the infant Aegon against the wall and with the baby's brain still on his hands, raping and murdering Aegon's mother, Princess Ilia of Dorne. Gregor causing a lot of destruction in the Riverlands, where he kills entire villages, rapes girls, and murders children. Gregor is also capable of slow torture for fun. He kept a man alive while cutting off his limbs and forcing the man to eat them. On top of that, the mountain stuck his younger brother's face in the fire when the brother played with the toy the mountain had discarded. This left his brother's face horribly disfigured for life. Lastly, there is the belief that he murdered his sister and father, and maybe even his wives, and his servants would vanish for no reason. What minor characters disturbed you from the books, or you found a bit more dark than the rest? Sometimes it's the little things that are most disturbing. List a minor character that creeped you out. This is the last week of Halloween-themed Game of Thrones A Song of Ice and Fire videos. Dark Theories is this Wednesday. Next week, we're back to the north.